Welcome. Just let me see that people are joining. Yes, I think people are joining us. This is excellent. So I'm happy to start our session on changemakers burnout and how to prevent changemakers and leaders burnout. This is an important session to us, obviously, because we are invested in this topic, but also because I'm so happy to see that this comes to be spoken and is referred in many contexts. This is a track on circular economy, and yet we speak about changemakers burnout because we know how important it is to take care of ourselves, changemakers, leaders, activists, entrepreneurs, to keep carrying that change. My name is Davida Ginter. I'm connecting from Israel. I'm the CEO of Enkindle Global. It's an organization dedicated to supporting leaders and organizations in burnout prevention and cultivating well-being. With me is my teammate and Nordic director of Enkindle Global, Deborah Rupert. Thank you for co-hosting this important conversation with me. Would you like to welcome and introduce our panelists?
Yes. So today we have two of our three soon-coming panelists. We have Eduardo Rodriguez, who is connecting from Norway. Eduardo is a digital culture evangelist, an explorer, a writer, a speaker of life, and you work in technology. We have Mats Larsson, connecting from Sweden. You're a serial entrepreneur and even producer. You're the founder of Mindburst, which is an upcoming human sustainability event. Right. And we will soon be joined with Moore Gilboan, and we will present him if he managed to come. All right, let's dive in. To both of you, what was your personal experience with burnout in terms of personal story, and what was your biggest learning?
Do you want to start, Eduardo?
Yeah, I can start actually. I think I was like built for burnout because the person who I am is, for me, like the red thread has been like passion. So either I'm on or I'm off, you can say. And when I'm on, I give it all, you know. So I started actually with books as a child, and I read, you can say. I even stay awake to just read and read and read. And then I discovered computer. And then I entered university and I discovered entrepreneurship. And I lived for that, you can say. I even come to the conclusion that if I could sleep, work more. And there is when it started to go downhill, you can say, because sleep is very important. So what happened was that I hit the wall like big time. It just came. And I just went down, you know. It was like, I'm a quite social person. I was like quite active with people and mentoring startups and doing my projects. And in one day I couldn't get up, you know. But it started slowly with like having anxiety. I could not be able to sleep, but I wanted to sleep. So I think I was awake for like 2 weeks before I actually crashed. And when I crashed, it was not like, oh, I'm feeling bad. It was like I went down to the bottom. So my father picked me up and I ended up in his sofa. And the depression that started there, it was like, I wouldn't wish that depression on my worst enemy. That is, I can tell. And it was not for 1 day or 1 week. It was like months and months and months. So it took me like 8 months actually to be able to come back. And I don't know how I did that, because I have to be honest, I was thinking of giving up more than once. So my father had to come with food, take away the food. The only thing I did, I was in a sofa for almost 8 months. So when I came back, I had to train myself to speak to people, because I couldn't even speak to people. I haven't done that for like months, you know. So, and then I asked my therapist at the time, I asked her like, am I the only entrepreneur, like leader here? And she told me that in that chair, Eduardo, there are like directors, there are CEOs. And what I learned is that I discovered that this thing called burnout and depression and all this kind of thing happens is most common actually among people with passion, like artists, entrepreneurs, or writers, or now I have that expression, I just say passionate. And that is like, the book I'm writing is called Way of the Passionate. And that is the journey I did after this burnout to find the answer. Why did this happen to me? Who do it else happen to? And what can I do to prevent this, So what I learned from this experience, it was that I learned to find myself, actually. I learned that me, Eduardo, doesn't need to be the entrepreneur, Eduardo, or wherever you would define us. I learned my true self, like my inner self. That was like the biggest lesson from this. And I learned how to balance myself to live with my passion in a sustainable way.
Thank you. Thank you. How about you, Mats?
Wow, that was fantastic, Eduardo. Sharing these strange moments. For me, it was sort of. If we're talking about when I was really burnout, it was actually happening in 2015. When I really, understood that there was something really bad. I was organizing a quite big event in Greece. Had 1,300 people. I was the responsible producer for the event. And months before that, I started to feel like everything was really going really slow. It was so difficult to concentrate, and it was really, really a hustle to get things done. And as Eduardo said, I worked harder, I slept less. It was really, really crazy. And then during this event, and what happened to me was that I saw everything in like black. There were no solution on anything. You can just imagine traveling 1,300 people down from Norway to a Greek island. I thought the airplanes were supposed to crash. I did all the time scheduling wrong, etc., etc. And not to be too long, for me, burnout and to become into that state has really, of course, it has something to do with your work. But I think that is one of the biggest mistakes we are doing now, that we are facing and we are giving guilt to our work situation, but we have to go much further beyond that. For me, it was a combination of a lot of things, and I was really also down. I was down for 3 years. 3 years without any brain working, and you don't want to be in that situation. Just try your utmost not to come into that situation. And what you have to do is that you have to let go of your ego a little bit. You have to learn about yourself much more. You have to really dig into your interior empires. You have to trust in who you really are. And you don't need to show to anybody some skills that you might not have, whatever. So what I think I dressed seriously 3 or 4 times. I was really on my way towards the train track because I thought that was the easiest way to get out of this hell and to kill myself. And I went to, I don't know, I spent a lot of money in therapists, psychiatrists, etc., etc. And at the end of the day, I found a solution, and that solution was far beyond work. It was really much deeper, and it was all about my childhood. It was about my way of being, and then I brought all that luggage with me towards work, and I was always trying to be better than I thought everybody was expecting me to be. And that's why I came into that situation. I'm so happy to be out of it. So I really want to address to everybody listening to this that do your utmost not to get into that situation. It's the worst thing that can happen to any human being. You're not worth anything. You only think about killing yourself. You're not, as Eduardo said, laying in the sofa, you go into different states, and it's all the reptile brain that is taking over. It's like you fight, then you try to escape, and when you don't find any escape route, then the only escape route is to die. And you're really looking for a way of doing that. Thanks to my family, to my kids, to my wonderful wife, I'm still alive. So don't don't even think about going into that.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
I really want to, because I want to help people not being there and not going into that situation.
Yeah, and this is part of making the burnout a spoken topic, so we can start by open a bold conversation and then, of course, resolve it. Mo, I'm so happy you can join us. Mo is connecting from Israel. You are an environmentalist and human rights activist. You are the co-founder of One Climate Movement for promoting climate change, justice, and you are part of the leading team of Active Lev, which is actually a platform for ongoing emotional processing and support for activists. This is exactly what we are doing here. Can you share a bit about your experience with burnout?
Yes, I heard Eduardo and Mats, and I can truly recognize some things with myself. My personal experience with burnout started like 6 years ago when I was, for 8 years, I was director of a very big grassroots environmental organization in Israel, who is supposed to train activists and to run a lot of campaigns around the country. And in this year, I was involved in one of the biggest campaigns there. It was against the export of the natural gas, and it was like a couple of months with a lot of big, like thousands of demonstrations, thousands of people demonstrated every Saturday night, and a lot of pressure in the organization, a lot of pressure on me, a lot of pressure to continue running the organization, but also to run this campaign. A lot of interviews, a lot of people got arrested every Saturday night, and me also with a lot of all kind of how do you say it, incidents with the police in that time. And after this time, I started to feel, for the first time in my life, I started to feel like symptoms of anxiety in my body. I didn't know to recognize then that it was anxiety, but my memories, my short-term memory got affected. I start to have all kinds of blackouts in my mind. I think then this was the symptoms, but it got worse in the years. And when it got really worse, I understood that it was anxiety, and it was then when I started to investigate burnout among activists, started to go to retreats and to read about it, and to go to all kinds of places. They try to work with activists on that topic. And in the end, now after I'm not the director anymore of Greenpeace, of Green Corps, sorry. I started to initiate Active Love in Action in Israel, to work with activists in that topic and to make it more out loud and more spoken.
And I think it's a perfect lead to what we would like to ask now, which is basically how your burnout of each one of you has changed the work that you do now. How did it change how you work and what you are working on? Eduardo, do you want to again take it first?
Okay, I have to say something is that I don't not regret my burnout. I wish I didn't experience it, of course, but for me, it really made me find myself, and it propelled me to find all the answers I wanted, and that is like the meaning of life. Why do we humans act as we do, and what can we do about it? Without that, it would not have happened. So for me, everything in life is destiny. I was like a strong person before, but I would say I was not actually, because inside Eduardo, I had no self-confidence because I was not driven by my inner self. And that was a big, big discovery, you know. I don't recommend people to do a burnout just to find themselves. That's the worst idea you can do. So we have that clear.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is that when these things happen in life, you must see it as a big, big wake-up call. You know, for me, it was like the biggest wake-up call ever. You know, and how it affected how I work today is everything, because I always work with culture. For me, culture is the main driver of any company, and for me, it's really important, like for the future, to build sustainable culture that really understand people. And according to me, companies do not fully understand people. Very few companies understand what really motivates people. Many things that it's still the carrot and the stick. And all these things that I'm talking about when I lecture is research that is open there for everybody to read. It's like nothing new in this sense, you know. And I truly believe from my heart that if you want to build a good company, you need to focus on the people. And then you need to understand what motivates people. And you need to understand what is sustainability and like how we go from like A to B to C. You know? And it all starts with self-awareness with oneself. And if one wants to avoid a burnout, you need to truly understand who you are, you know, like what is your main driver. And you need to remove all these kind of layers of like titles and like predictions from outside. And you need to understand that if you nourish the inside, that's the only way you can feel fulfilled. So for me, it's like mentally, as I see it, as myself, it's like I have gone to another level when it comes to self-awareness. And I think everybody should start with that. And that is what I try to do now, is with my book I'm writing and with my lectures or in my work. Like I work a lot with the culture in our current company. It's all based to that, you know, to create awareness about us humans, like what triggers us and how we can be sustainable. Yes.
Thank you. Mats, how did it change what you do?
I think Eduardo has told everything. I can talk about this, and of course it has changed. It has changed me a lot. It has changed me completely, I should say. But I think instead of digging into that, I expressed some of those things last time I was talking. I think what we really have to look on here is a much bigger, let's say, a picture. I think, Eduardo tells a lot about how corporations and companies should work, and we need to see the people. I think we need to start much, much earlier. We really have to start. I am a parent. I have two wonderful kids, and I think maybe some of the colleagues here on screens also have kids. And I think that, the way we were raised by our parents was in one way, but now we're in a completely new situation in the world with the globalization, with the internet. I didn't have any internet. I was like banging the drums in my small little village. We really have to start from the very beginning, and we have to start to, in one way or the other, teach parents. A lot of parents are probably listening to us now. The way we are working with our kids. In Sweden, Norway, Eduardo lives in Norway. I live in Sweden, partly in Spain. Then we have Israel here and we have a French wonderful woman up on top here. I think it all starts on how we are starting to raise our kids, and then we turn it over into friends, and then we go into teachers. And the whole thing is about building self-awareness and to make a stronger person out of everybody, and not focusing on all those very fast, let's say, like bottoms on all the social media. I should said, if you listen to the big creators of social medias, I was watching a documentary the other night. You have to see it. I mean, even the ones creating the like bottom, they are not giving the opportunity to their kids to use social media, because we are creating a situation for our kids. I was listening to a fantastic speak yesterday from Simon Sinek about all these things. I mean, we cannot even as a kid express ourselves now, and those kids are the future. So I think we really do need to start there. And if I should have been raised in another way, I would most probably not have been burnout, because it was all a pressure about making money. You have to prove that you're better than anybody. You have to be the best, and I mean, all that pressure, and then the teachers, you have to learn all this shit. I mean, instead of starting with me. So I mean, for me, it has changed a lot, to answer your question. And I think this is a very, very important topic. And that's also why I created the Mindburst event, which couldn't happen because of the situation we are in right now. But now we're going to do it on the 13th of November.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing up the education angle. Mo, what's your take on what has changed for you in terms of working after burnout?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that some of the things that need to be changed is our culture, and even the culture among social organizations in Israel and activist organizations in Israel, and not only in Israel. The culture need to be changed, because we have that image about activists that they are strong and they can do anything, and they like mini superheroes that nothing can affect them, but it's not true. And many of the activists that I know, and I know plenty of, are really sensitive, and really many of them at burnout, and their work or their motivation to social change revolves with pain in their life, pain that they are feeling with the world, and the things that they want to change. And I think that the culture that needs to be changed is the ability to speak about things, to process emotions, to process hard situations that we are facing during our activism, and to create those spaces for activists that they could talk about their emotions, that they could like create some sustainable system to help them, like a body system with other activists to share emotions, to share strong incidents, and of course we want to save the world, but we must remember that we need that we have the obligation to take care of ourselves also during that work, and we are very important, and we need to save some time, to save some energy for ourselves during this important work.
Excellent.
Rest, to eat well.
I feel a shared agreement on specifically on the bit here around our virtual table. I feel that we have all learned something about that bit of self-care in that process, that it's not egoistic to take care of ourselves while we carry this mission. Deborah, do you have anything you want to add to this round before we wrap up?
Yeah, I feel like the theme of everything is about developing resilience for oneself. And I think the challenge that comes, that unfortunately once you go through burnout, you learn resilience the very, very hard way.
Yeah.
And it becomes a survival skill, like I have to get up again. But if we work on building this capacity of resilience earlier on, if something comes, how do I flip back with love, with compassion, with gentleness with myself, with tools that keep it under control and properly balanced? I think this is the key message here that we all share.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been short. You know, we could probably talk about this topic for way longer, but we did have a time limit of 20 minutes, so we wanted to give a glimpse to this topic. We are inviting you to continue this conversation. Feel free to connect with us, to reach out. We can put here in the chat the way to reach out to us and continue this conversation and engage with us specifically on this topic of change makers and leaders burnout, because we do feel it's important. I want to thank you for taking part, for being so insightful and intentional. Eduardo, Mats, Mo, and Deborah, my teammate and colleague. I really appreciate your time and intention. You put your heart in that, and we appreciate that you help raising awareness to this important topic of preventing change makers burnout on time. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Okay, we're going to stick here for 1 or 2 minutes, Deborah, in case there are more questions or ideas coming through the chats. And I know that others are now joining the main stage through this platform. I think they're wrapping up there. But it's been a wonderful discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question to Eduardo, which is, Eduardo, can you tell me how humans do what they do? A short answer. Ha!
In the chat here.
Like,
Yes?
okay, the short answer is that humans are humans.
Sorry, wait a second. Go ahead. You were muted.
Okay, short answer is that humans are humans who are actually not so complicated. Our reptile part of the brain is quite big and quite dominant. And so what people usually do is that when they get something in their brain, they usually go on the autopilot and just react. For example, they read something, oh, this is not correct, and then like, pang, they go in there and they answer negative way. So what people need to do is to reflect more, like be more mindful, have more compassion, practice gratitude. And it doesn't come by itself, because society, like social media, it's all built to trigger us on these primitive things, you know, that drives us. But once you wake up and realize how everything is like rigged or triggered, you can start to change. And the change needs to start at home, like Matt said. Really, really important message. Really, really. So for me, it starts with my children, for example, and then it also starts with my colleagues when I come to work. So self-awareness is not easy. You need to like have it everywhere. That's the thing. You know? And I notice my difference when I don't do it for a month or something. I start to notice myself how I'm triggered with all these things that put us in this kind of negative path. You know? So humans are not doomed, but we need to work to keep that reptile away.
Thank you very much. Okay. We don't have more direct questions. I guess it's time for us to close.
To wrap up, and thank again, everyone, and joining the main stage if you wish to. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.